Good morning, everyone. A huge welcome to CERJ Submission Workshop. We are the Volume 11 editorial board. This workshop aims to assist researchers who are interested in publishing with CERJ, address your concern regarding CERJ submission, and help you to familiarize yourself with the academic publishing process. So this workshop lasts 45 minutes and contains 3 parts. Firstly, we will spend approximately 5 minutes to introduce CERJ. Then the rest of the time will be used for Q&A, where we will begin by answering the questions we received from the emails and those mentioned by some of you on the interest survey. We're confident that this part will address most of your concerns. Following that, we will leave some time for live Q&A. So here is a list of questions that will be addressed today. So if you have any questions during our presentation, feel free to raise your hand or post your questions in the chat box to our editorial board. We're very happy to have Professor Maha here today to co-host the workshop with us. Max, would you like to introduce Professor Maha?
Sure. Professor Maha is the British Academy Bilateral Chair Education in Conflict at the Faculty of Education at the University of Cambridge. Maha is also the Director of the Center for Lebanon Studies since 2012, and her research focuses on the sociology and politics of education, particularly equity and equality in education, and the implications of inequalities for marginalized groups such as refugee children and persons with disabilities. Her research interests are also focused on curriculum and educational reform in Lebanon. So I'd like to invite Professor Maha to say something.
Yeah, Professor Maha, is there anything you would like to say before we start?
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me today. It's really great pleasure to be with you. And it's great to see this initiative at the faculty. When I was a student 15 years ago, we didn't have these opportunities. We didn't have also much student representation or voice. So it's really great to see that this is happening. And we often felt as, you know, in citizenship education, we call it citizens in waiting. We were like academics in waiting. So it's really good to see that you no longer wait until you finish to start to engage with these conversations and spaces. And so it's really great. And it's so important to have students get more involved in these discussions and these processes where you will learn very, very important things before you start your work, like after graduation.
Thank you very much, Professor Maha. Great, let's start. Now we will use approximately 5 minutes to give a brief introduction about CERJ. What is CERJ? So the Cambridge Educational Research e-Journal is a higher degree graduate-led initiative based out of the Faculty of Education at the University of Cambridge. CERJ is an open access journal indexed by DOAJ. Our goals are create a forum for researchers to share their ongoing and completed work within the community. We aim to provide researchers with opportunities to receive constructive feedback about their work. Importantly, we aim to support the first-time authors and early career researchers as they ease their way into the world of publication. Although CERJ is based out of Cambridge, we hope to represent a variety of voices and welcome submissions from students, researchers, professors, and educators, including K-12 teachers from both within and beyond Cambridge. So here is a list of our editorial board members. My name is Ying Zhang, and I'm the editor-in-chief of CERJ Volume 11. I'm currently in the process of completing my PhD in mathematics education at Cambridge. Would everyone please say hi to the audience?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rasman. I'm a PhD candidate in multilingualism and language education research. I'm taking on the role as a deputy editor for Volume 1 of CERJ. So glad to see everyone here.
Hello everyone, my name is Max. I'm the production editor for this year, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Faculty of Education focusing on maths education.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm the research communications editor, and I'm currently an MPhil student in knowledge, power, and politics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nancy. I'm the events manager of CERJ Volume 11 editorial board, and currently I'm an MPhil student in the root of knowledge, power, and politics at University of Cambridge.
Also, we have Professor Julie Alderton and Professor Kevin Tai serve as our advisors for Volume 11, and we have a great IT team from the Faculty of Education supporting us. So this year we have received registration from numerous researchers who would like to be our reviewers. And here is just a small selection of those who would like their names to be displayed on our website. We have only initiated the call for reviewers once, and our plan is to release it at least 4 more times. So by the end of April, it's likely that we will gather 4 more times reviewers, 4 times more reviewers than what we are having now. Expanding our reviewer database would allow us to select more suitable reviewers for office. As you can see, many of them are professors, lecturers, and those who have completed or are pursuing their PhD degrees. So bringing in more experts from diverse fields of education is one strategy we use this year to improve the quality of the review, rather than solely relying on the review training. Although there's still 1 month left until the submission deadline, we have already received many manuscripts from authors with various positions, including professor, lecturers, PhD candidates, MPhil students, and teaching staffs. The locations are also quite diverse. They are from the United States, United Kingdom, and Nigeria. Also, we have a range of authors who have indicated their plan to submit to CERJ they're from Canada, China, Ghana, and Turkey. So previously, our submissions mostly came from Cambridge. However, this year, our Volume 11 have diversified the outreach to the universities worldwide. We aim to transform CERJ into a global publication rather than one solely associated with Cambridge students. Okay, now it's the most exciting part, the Q&A session. We will first answer the questions we received from you first, and feel free to post any questions in the chat box to our editorial board at any point, or raise your hand. So first question, how might CERJ help me in my research journey? Max, would you like to explain this question to the audience?
Of course. So there's a range of reasons how this might help you. The first is experience in the publishing process. So it's a double-blind peer review, as you see in many other journals. So it's good to go through that experience. You will get constructive peer feedback. So it's a way to improve your work, to get someone to look at your work that hasn't looked at it before and to get that feedback. Then raise the profile of your work. So it's an open access journal, which means it's easy to share it with others and hopefully get some citations. And you engage with a wider community. So after the journal is released, there will also be a launch event with other authors as well as other participants, and you can again share your work and talk to others about it. Now you don't have to just take that from us. We also have some previous authors that wanted to share their experience.
Let's see what do past authors say. How can submitting to CERJ contribute to the growth of their publication and research experience?
So Esther is now a lecturer in human resources and organizational behavior. For it was first ever publishing experience. She found it thorough and helpful, the communication, and she felt confident that the research method going through this process. Then Chanlong Li, who's doing a PhD at the University of Oxford, found it a remarkable opportunity for early career researchers, and again, understanding how academic publishing works. Then we have Yuqing Wong, who did an MSc, so even if you do a master's, this can be a good opportunity for you to share your works, find a way to publish your pioneering research and to drive further research and policy collaboration on that topic, and sharing that.
Anju says that it was their first time publishing and they really appreciated the professional and encouraging responses. And then San said that it was a helpful way to disseminate their research to a broader audience.
Question 2. How many issues are CERJ scheduled annually, and when is the deadline for an upcoming issue?
So we have one volume annually. We don't do issues. It's important to note that the deadline is April 30th, 2024. You can find this submission form on our homepage, and you can see where it's highlighted, the little box text submission form. You can also head to the submissions link in the left-hand menu and submit that way if you'd like.
Question 3. Is CERJ indexed?
Yes, CERJ is an open access journal indexed by DOAJ. For those not familiar, DOAJ stands for the Directory of Open Access Journals, which is a comprehensive index featuring a wide array of open access journals around the world. is supported by an expanding community dedicated to ensuring that quality content is available online for everyone free of charge. It signifies a commitment to making research accessible to all, and CERJ being listed there evidently shows its quality and accessibility.
Question 4. How long should I wait for the decision, and when can my article be published by CERJ?
So we're doing things a little bit differently this year than what we did for the past volumes, but we aim to make a decision within 30 days of submission for the blind review process. We've actually already sent out a bunch of first round decisions to authors who have submitted already. And then in terms of when your publication will be accepted, we aim to make these decisions by July 31st. And then we aim to publish the volume by November 2024 at the very latest. And then in general, in terms of communications, we try to respond to all emails within at least a day.
Question 5. What can I submit? Zoe, would you like to explain?
So in general, we accept a few different types of submissions. So we accept research papers, commentary, research notes, reflexive pieces, and critical reviews and literature reviews. But it's important to note that this isn't all inclusive. So if there's another format that you're interested in submitting, but the submission form isn't working for you, or you just have questions in general, please reach out to us. We're really interested in welcoming other types of research if possible. So just reach out to the CERJ team if you have any questions.
Yes, we have received several inquiries regarding the different formats they would like to submit beyond the 3 categories, which will be illustrated soon. So one is from an author, from an author at Canada who is asking, can I submit a research proposal that doesn't have findings? Razman, would you like to explain this answer?
Yeah, thank you. And so the short answer is no. However, we recommend reworking your proposal to fit into various writing styles, such as literature reviews, commentaries, or reflective or opinion pieces. So these formats allow you to share your theoretical insights and suggest future research directions without needing specific findings. So on the screen, you'll see a few examples which illustrate what papers in this submission category could look like.
Thank you, Razman. And next question. My proposal is for a non-data paper and outlines the concepts that have built up to the research. Is this okay?
Yes, we welcome submissions of theoretical or conceptual papers. We'd also like to add that these conceptual papers will be broadly assessed based on several criteria, such as, does the paper introduce a fresh concept? Is the concept communicated clearly and convincingly? Does it offer a unique perspective which distinct from existing ideas? And do the authors clarify the scope of the concepts and its significance? And does the paper critically engage with previous research and signpost new research directions? So overall, we highly encourage you to clearly communicate the significance of your work. So please don't hesitate to submit your conceptual paper, and we are looking forward to receiving it from you.
Question 8. Is there space in CERJ for researchers exploring arts-based research methods and form and content?
Yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. At CERJ, we are truly committed to maintain the richness that diverse research methods and perspectives bring to our scholarly community. So if you're conducting arts-based research and find that it doesn't quite fit into our provided template, please don't worry about it. We encourage you to reach out to us and provide us with specifics of your approach. And should your article make its way through our review process, both our editorial and IT teams are fully committed to collaborating with you to seamlessly integrate your research into our journal. So your contributions matters greatly to us, and we really look forward to publishing your arts-based research in CERJ.
We are aware that the website's content management system is a bit outdated. So in instances of publishing video, animation, or artwork, we have reached out to the IT office, who is happy to assist us create a new page for embedding the media piece or host the media on an external platform. It's also possible to embed the media within the PDF itself, which are great news for the art researchers. So if you plan to submit an art-based research, please remember to email us your submission so that we are aware of the uniqueness of its format and type, so can assign it to the appropriate reviewers for you. And question 9, the website declares that the article needs to be original and has not already been published in a journal and is not currently under consideration by another journal. Therefore, I'm wondering whether we are allowed to extend our previous conference proceeding to CERJ. So the short answer is yes. Extending a conference paper to a journal article is quite common in our field. However, if your manuscript has been published in a conference proceeding, you will need to ensure that it has been extensively revised. In general, more details about the background, description, and additional results of the research should be provided when submitting to CERJ to avoid copyright issues and other concerns. However, if your article has been published in another journal, we cannot accept it. And question 10, if I have a literature review that I wrote as an assignment for my MPhil, can this be submitted to CERJ? Do I have to make changes to the work to avoid self-plagiarism? The short answer is yes. You can submit your MPhil essay or thesis. Journals generally accept papers based on the work already written up in a thesis, and CERJ does not count publication of an academic thesis as prior publication. However, the structure of the literature review written for an essay can be quite different from that of a journal. So your paper should be a reworking of the material and written to conform to the CERJ submission guideline. You will need to make some modifications to tailor the format and content to fit our journal. And this can also help you to reduce the percentage of self-plagiarism as well. Professor Maha, would you like to expand further on what are the reworking students should make or be aware of when converting their thesis to a journal article?
Okay, so all right. First of all, I'm really, really impressed with the questions and the information and how well organized the session is. This is really wonderful. I wish this is available also to other journals. That way participants can also understand how the journal works. So this is really great that you're doing this session. I think first of all, I would say, I mean, one of the challenges that prevent us from publishing our work is the fear it will be rejected, is whether it's going to be ever good enough. And that sometimes it can be a bit overdaunting to transform, because the way you write a thesis is different from the way you're writing an article. And that sometimes can be off-putting. So the first thing, if I can tell you from my personal experience, is don't ever wait for your work to be perfect. It will never be as perfect as you expect. And you have to understand that this is a learning journey. And even if you get lots of rejections, all of us keep getting lots of rejections throughout our lifetime. And I remember at that time a professor who was quite late in his career sharing with us a 12-page feedback from a reviewer. And he was like a professor with more than 20 years of experience. So that's number one, don't wait for it to be perfect. One common issue that I often find when reviewing, and this is how I know like this piece has been probably a thesis or an assignment, is often the way you write the literature review. It's almost like a list. Yeah, it is a literature review. While in an article, you don't want it to look like a literature review. In an article, you want it to be engaged with the research question, reflective, analytical, rather than just on a long list of, and X said this, and this said that, and Y said this. That is not what makes a unique piece of thinking. So engage with your literature in terms of, so what does it tell us about the field of study that you're doing? How does it highlight the gaps? And how did that shape the way you designed your research question, but also the approach you chose to take? So the literature review is usually one of the biggest challenges. And then it's the findings. How do you present your findings? And often in thesis, some of students present findings and then a separate chapter for analysis and discussion. So that is something to think about. How do you want to handle your this in your article submission? Do you want to split them, like you've split them in your thesis, or do you want to integrate them together and just have a conclusion, a brief discussion and conclusion? So this is something, and it depends on your data, and it depends on the flow of the article. Another very important thing that I find, which is also, I mean, dissertation and thesis are written sometimes not the most interesting way. And And while an article, you have to have a very clear storyline. What is the issue here? What is the point? What are you trying to argue? And what's the story that you're trying to tell through this this article? And this is, I think, one, sometimes when you're summarizing a thesis into an article, it can become too choppy without a very coherent argument. Another point I think you need to think about is also, how do you want to use your voice? So I remember when I did my thesis, my examiner said, where is your voice? I was thinking, I was just so overwhelmed by, oh, I want to be this objective. I was quite positivist at that time in terms of my training. So my voice got missing and my story got missing. And that's something that is so important. Yes, you want, I'm not at all a positivist researcher. I always use the word I and we if we're a group of researchers. So I think it's very important that, you make it a story and your voice is very clear. Your argument is very clear and your contribution to this argument is very clear. So the articles that are the most powerful articles that we read are ones that are very, they have a very clear commitment to an issue or an argument that they're trying to make. They want to make a particular point about the matter that they are researching. And it's very, very important that you articulate, what's your position on this issue as a result of your findings. Now, I want to reach to the conclusion. And I think this is one, often we write the conclusion when we're burnt out and we're totally exhausted and we're just listing things and, almost as a summary. A conclusion, it is not, it's not a summary. It's basically, this is what I feel like, okay, but the juice says, okay, so what, and how, and it's mostly zooming out and looking at your article from a distance. All right, so what have we learned and what implications does this study have on the field, whether theoretically, whether empirically, what makes it important and what does it add to what we know about this field? So try to zoom out and extrapolate conceptually on this. And one last point I want to say is the theoretical frame or the theory that you use in your article. So if you use a theoretical paradigm or different theories in your thesis, think how you want to bring this into the article. So some different disciplines have different ways of doing things. So some articles don't have any theoretical underpinning. Others, and we're encouraging education that we do have a theoretical positioning, and that by theoretical positioning, sometimes you're unaware that you are being theoretically positioned in a certain way, or you're drawing on certain theoretical ideas and concepts. So if you include a theoretical section in your article, make sure that in the conclusion you engage with it. Come back to it. What does it tell us? How did it help us see these things? So make sure that you bring it. You don't have to call it, using the theoretical framework X, Y, Z, but make sure that the question and the lens that this theory helped you look at your subject of study, that you call on it in your conclusion. I hope that makes sense. And please do, if there's anything unclear, please make sure, feel free to ask. But I can't emphasize how important it is in the conclusion to think about, okay, what contribution you're making? How does this advance conceptually the understanding of this particular issue that you are researching? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Maha, for your valuable insights. So if any of you plan to submit your MPhil thesis or essay or PhD thesis to CERJ, we will suggest you have your supervisor support you and review it before your submission to CERJ. Next question, what is the review process of CERJ? So CERJ follows a double-blind peer review, and here is the specific steps we follow. After the manuscript is received, our editorial board will conduct a desk review to check whether the submission is in line with the theme of education, the scope of CERJ, and align with the submission guidelines. For example, we have received submissions that did not follow our template and are over 9,000 words, so it was rejected at the desk review stage. However, if your theme is within the scope of education and follows our submission guidelines, your manuscript will be passed on to our peer review stage. We will assign the manuscript to 2 peer reviewers, matching them based on their expertise. We will ensure that the reviewers have equal or most likely greater research experience compared to the authors, especially if the authors are students. For example, if you are an MPhil student, your manuscript would be likely reviewed by a PhD candidate or a postdoc or a professor. And then peer reviewers will separately review articles, complete the feedbacks, and send back to the editors. We, the editors, will read the review forms completed by the peer reviewer and decide whether the submission will be accepted with revisions or rejection. Then the authors, you will be given 3 weeks to revise your submissions as needed, and then submit the revised manuscript. This might be passed on to a second round of peer review if necessary, and you might be asked to submit another round of revised manuscript. And finally, our editorial board will review the changes made by authors and decide whether or not to accept the manuscript. You might be asked for a final editing before your manuscript is officially published. So here is the process we follow. And question 12, what are CERJ's review standards? Taking empirical study as an example, Max, would you like to share the answer to this?
Absolutely. I think many of these things have already been covered, but again, you want to be very clear about the rationale of the study. The goal needs to be clearly stated and justified. In terms of a methodology, it needs to be adequate regarding the questions and the goals that you state in the study, and it needs to be implemented in a reasonable way. In terms of results and the interpretations, the results need to be presented clearly, and they need to be adequate to the framework of the study. So again, if you think about a theoretical framework. In terms of clarity, is the language and the style of the paper adequate? And are the tables and graphics of good quality? So please double check that. And finally, it's important to think about the relevance to the readers. We have quite a broad range of readers, but it needs to be relevant to researchers in the field of education.
And I believe Rasman can add more based on our review, based on the review form we send to the reviewers.
Yeah, so our review standards could be further broadly divided into two, which basically have also been comprehensively explained by Professor Maha. So overall, we are looking for, the first one is the originality. So here we are going to assess the novelty of the research contribution, and contribution to the field is also here important because we aim to evaluate the impact on knowledge, theory, and or practice. So in terms of the organization, in this aspect, we will look at the coherence and logical flow of arguments. And relatedly, we also would like to see the clarity of the writing and some language-related aspects as well. In terms of the detailed considerations, the clarity of the title and abstract, so make sure they accurately reflect the content and the purpose of your research. And the suitability of research methods also is very important here. So make sure that the justifications behind the chosen methods in relation to the research identified, in relation to identified research gap and research questions should also be clearly communicated. In terms of the coverage of the relevant literature review, so make sure that you have evaluated the literature review that are relevant to your work, and make sure that they are comprehensive and relevant, and also make sure you engage with the literature that is existing now and reflect on it as well. In terms of the strength of the arguments, we hope that we will see submissions that can show the logical consistency and how the arguments presented are supported empirically as well, if it's an empirical paper. And lastly, I think it's also important to see the aspect of justifications and depth of conclusions and discussions as well. So overall, I think we are very eager to welcome all the submissions and make sure that you can cater these two broad aspects of the review process.
Question 13, do I have to agree with all the reviewers' feedback? Nan, would you like to explain to these questions?
Sure. For this question, the short answer is no, you don't. It's important to understand that while we encourage you to consider the feedback from our reviewers, it's not mandatory to incorporate every piece of advice they give. However, if you choose not to follow certain suggestions, we do ask that you provide a justification for your decision. It's all about making informed choices and ensuring that your paper is as strong as it can be.
Question 14, how to ensure CERJ's peer reviews feedbacks are constructive and supportive? So this year, we have used 3 strategies to improve the review feedback received by authors. First of all, we have improved the reviewer team, as mentioned earlier, by bringing in more experts in diverse backgrounds in education. We will ensure that the reviewers assigned have equal or most likely greater research experience compared to the authors, especially if the authors are students. Secondly, a reviewer training will be provided this year to ensure that the review quality adhere to our CERJ standard and ensure that the reviewers are open to new perspective in education. Importantly, our editors will carefully assess the peer reviewers' comments to maintain a professional tone in their feedback. Also, furthermore, we would like to encourage everyone to contribute to diversifying our reviewer pool by registering to be reviewers for CERJ Volume 11. Next question. Will I receive feedback for improving the paper if my article is rejected?
The answer is yes, but with a condition. If your paper progresses to the peer review stage and is then rejected, you will receive constructive feedback to help you improve your work. However, if your submission is rejected at the initial desk review stage due to not following our submission guidelines, you probably won't receive feedback. This is because the paper doesn't reach the peer review stage where such feedback is provided.
Question 16. What is the acceptance rate of CERJ? Zoe, would you like to address this question?
Yeah, so we don't have an acceptance rate, and instead we just aim to publish as many qualified papers as we receive. But for reference, in the past for Volume 9, they were able to publish 25 out of 85 submissions.
Question 17. Can I use ChatGPT to assist me with the writing? Max, can you illustrate this question?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, but if you use, just in a broader sense, large language models, you need to document their use and you need to acknowledge them in the appropriate section of the paper. This is not at author level, so you don't list, for example, ChatGPT as an author, but you might have to mention it in the acknowledgements and maybe also in the method section if you have a methodology section in your paper. I have some guidelines here because a lot of journals are struggling with this and how to integrate large language model. Some guidance from CERJ, the publisher, and there's some things that you might want to think about. So first of all, again, clearly indicate the use of language models, including which one and for what purpose. Verify the accuracy, validity, and appropriateness of the content, because a lot of the citations that are generated could actually be incorrect. So you're responsible for checking that. Provide a list of the sources used to generate content. And again, be very conscious for the potential of plagiarism. So you need to check that the original sources are not plagiarized and you're not using someone else's work. Finally, you really want to be careful in acknowledging the limitations of language models, just in broad sense in your research as well, but specifically if you're using large language models. And I want to state again, ChatGPT should not be listed as an author, but needs to be mentioned in the appropriate sections.
Question 18. If my paper is rejected at the desk review process, can I resubmit it before the deadline for submission?
Yes, you absolutely can resubmit. If your paper was rejected for not adhering to our submission guidelines, you will have the opportunity to adjust the format and resubmit the paper before our deadline, which is April 30th. We will mention this in our rejection emails to encourage authors to submit their improved work.